This is a case study for EDL 853, When a Student's Rights Are Wronged by Lisa T. Meyer. Section 1 is a summary of the case. This describes the school and community. Nottingham High School is in the Dover community. Nottingham serves 3,200 students. It was built in the 1950s. 3/4 of the building currently is up to code in terms of state and federal standards required to accommodate individuals with disabilities, but 1/4 still is not. The reason it is not is because it's due to lack of funding. The community overall is very supportive. They come to sporting events and things like that. A summary of the case, the event that happened is Miguel Hernandez is a sophomore quarterback for the varsity football team, and he was injured at the football game. He was paralyzed from the waist down, leaving him in a wheelchair. After rehabilitation, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez requested a meeting with the high school counselor, Mrs. Guzman, to discuss Miguel's return to school. During this meeting, the parents told Mrs. Guzman that Miguel would not need very many accommodations or modifications, but he would be in a wheelchair when he returned. Mrs. Guzman said that would be fine, that they would be ready for him as long as he had a doctor's release. After 2 weeks, he did come back to school with a doctor's release, and he was welcomed by an assembly held in his honor. While he was in his first period class, Mrs. Guzman called him out and told him that she would be switching his biology class to a different science class because biology class was not wheelchair accessible. The new science class did meet graduation requirements. Miguel went home and he told his mother about this, and she called the school very upset and requested to meet with me, the principal, immediately. Miguel's mother wanted to know why the schedule was changed without her knowledge. Miguel needed biology because it's required course for the university he wanted to attend. During the meeting with his mother, Miguel's father and Howard Carey, Miguel's attorney, joins the meeting. During the meeting, Mr. Carey wants to know if I'm familiar with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and FAPE. Section 2, legal and ethical issues. Miguel and his family are being harmed by the decisions of others. Number 1, the school is not providing FAPE, free and appropriate public education. The Individuals with Disability Education Act says that each child who has a disability and needs special education and related services will receive a free and appropriate public education. Miguel is being discriminated against and not allowed to continue in his previously enrolled biology class. Instead of letting Miguel continue in biology, his class was changed because the room was not wheelchair accessible. The school did not advocate for equal access to educational resources, technologies, and opportunities that support the educational success and well-being of each student. The school currently is not following a Section 504. This prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities and programs that receive federal financial assistance. Miguel is being discriminated against because the room is not up to code. It is violating a civil rights statute and requires the needs of students with disabilities to be met as adequately as the needs of non-disabled. The Americans with Disability Act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities and guarantees equal opportunities for individuals with disabilities in employment, transportation, public accommodation, state and local government services, and telecommunications. Miguel is being discriminated against because he is being denied access to the biology room, which would be public accommodations. Synthesis of the event. Due to Nottingham High School not being up to code in terms of state and federal standards required to accommodate individuals with disability, which is Section 504, ADA, and FAPE, Miguel's basic rights as a human are not being met. To synthesize the facts for Section 3, the people. What do we know? We know Miguel has been paralyzed from the waist down. Miguel's parents had a pre-meeting with Mrs. Guzman to discuss Miguel's current condition 2 weeks prior to him starting back to school. The counselor accommodated the school when changing Miguel's schedule, not Miguel. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez were upset about the change and about not being notified of it. Mrs. Guzman met with Miguel without the principal. Dr. Harvey, the superintendent, is very supportive of the school and community. Miguel's parents called a meeting with the principal with me, and they brought in an attorney. What do we need to know? Well, did Mrs. Guzman discuss the schedule change with me prior to discussing it with Miguel? Are there other students that have been denied opportunities as well that we just don't know about? What are the thoughts and feelings of the biology teacher for them having to maybe move classrooms or Miguel being transferred out of their class? What are the thoughts and feelings of the other staff? Is Dr. Harvey aware of the situation? And if he is, what is his stance on it? Are Miguel's peers supportive of the new situation with Miguel returning? Is Mr. Carey and Miguel's parents willing to sit down with myself and other key stakeholders to develop a solution before it goes any further? Synthesize the facts, which is the place. So what do we know? We know Nottingham is located in Dover, and it's the central hub of Dover. It serves 3,200 students. It's the only high school. Nottingham is not up to code in terms of state and federal standards required to accommodate individuals with disabilities. Again, only 3/4 of it is. The biology class has not been renovated due to lack of funds. And they do have a supportive community, though. What do we need to know? We need to know, are there enough funds to make the rest of the school accessible to all? If not, can they be raised? Are there some sort of grants that we can apply for? Is there another classroom that is wheelchair accessible that the biology class can utilize, whether it's an open class or if it's one that maybe teachers are going to have to switch classrooms? Are Miguel's other classes for this semester wheelchair accessible, or are we going to start running into other snags once we get into Miguel's schedule? If not, can other teachers switch classrooms now? Synthesize the facts of the program. So what do we know? We know Nottingham is a public high school with excellent programs. The biology class is not accessible to Miguel. Miguel was given a different science class to meet graduation requirements, but it does not meet his college requirements. What do we need to know? Did I know as the principal the schedule change was going to take place prior to it actually taking place? Does Miguel have a 504 plan, or has it even been discussed? How is the school going to accommodate and meet his needs? What future decisions need to be made to continue to accommodate Miguel throughout his high school career? Section 4, review and prioritize the information. The conflict, situation, and decisions could become very damaging to many stakeholders in the community. Miguel could be damaged because he's denied equal access and rights to a free, appropriate public education. The decision could hurt his chances of attending the college he was planning on. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez were not informed of the decision to change the schedule, and their son is not getting his needs met. Myself, it could cause a lawsuit. It could cause me to write a 504. A biology teacher may have to change classrooms, make modifications and accommodations. The same as other staff members may have to switch classrooms and make modifications and accommodations. Mrs. Guzman, her reputation may be tarnished for her changing Miguel's schedule without thinking about the consequences that may follow. The community, the high school's reputation may negatively shift, and the support may decrease. Dr. Harvey needs to be aware of the situation and be ready to offer solutions. Section 5, identify options and possible consequences. After meeting with all relevant stakeholders, some of the school's options could include: 1, keep Miguel in the science class just to meet graduation requirements and support Mrs. Guzman's decision. 2, begin construction immediately on the biology room to make it accessible. 3, begin construction of the rest of the school and make it all up to code. 4, have the biology class in a different room that is accessible. 5, have Miguel take biology in the future once the biology class has become accessible. Or 6, offer biology as an independent study class or a distant learning opportunity. Section 6 is evaluate the option. So the option of just keeping him in the science class just to meet graduation requirements. A pro to that would be it supports Mrs. Guzman's decision. It's less work because you don't really have to do anything from here. The cons would be it doesn't meet FAPE, ADA, or Section 504. It isn't what is best for Miguel's future, and the family would still be upset. The option of to begin the construction immediately on the biology room to make it accessible. It rectifies the situation. It meets all code requirements. It meets Miguel's needs, and it makes the parents happy. The cons would be funding. Where is that going to come from? The time that it's going to take to do it. And with that, what is the plan for Miguel during construction? Option 3, begin construction on the rest of the school and make it all up to code. Again, this is the same as if we started the biology room. It would take care of the situation. It would meet all the codes. It would meet Miguel's needs. And again, it would make the parents happy. But again, a con would be, where is the funding going to come from? The time, what is the plan for Miguel during construction? Another option would be have biology class in a different room that is accessible. For this, Miguel can still attend biology class and meets the requirements of FAPE, ADA, and Section 504. The con would be the teachers must switch rooms in the middle of the year, and it may affect other students. Another option would be have Miguel take biology in the future once the biology class can become more accessible. A pro would be Miguel can still get his biology requirement needed for college, and the building has time to get up to code. The con would be Miguel's schedule must change. He's denied access to a class with his peers, and his family would still be upset. The last option would be offer biology as an independent study or distant learning opportunity. A pro would be Miguel will still get his biology requirements needed for college. He may get his classes actually done on a faster time schedule. Cons would be he would be taken out of class with his peers. Who is going to have to pay for the distance learning opportunity if that is the option that we do go with? Section 7, choose the best option. After reviewing all the options, the best option would be to let Miguel stay enrolled in his current biology class. However, the class will need to be moved to a classroom that is accessible. I will need to have a staff meeting to discuss possible changes with all stakeholders. I will need to allow time and manpower for the teachers to change classrooms because when teachers have to change classrooms in the middle of the year, it becomes a huge job and a huge stress. I will need to meet with Mrs. Guzman about her decision to change Miguel's schedule without considering the law first. I will set up a meeting with Miguel's parents, Dr. Harvey, and staff members to ensure everyone is on the same page. If a 504 plan is needed, I will go ahead and write that. I will try to make the transition as seamless as possible for Miguel, all students, and staff. And I will develop a plan outlining when the rest of the building will become accessible and communicate this out to stakeholders. Section 8, implementing the decision. Step 1 would be to set up a pre-meeting with Dr. Harvey, the biology teacher, others affected by the move, Mrs. Guzman, the school attorney, and myself. In this meeting, I'd like to come up with a rough draft to present to the Hernandez family. Step 2 would be to set up a meeting with Miguel, his parents, his attorney, myself, and Dr. Harvey. During the meeting, I want to take notes of the request and then present the rough draft, and then modify our plan accordingly and come up with an agreement during the meeting. Step 3 is discuss a possible 504 and what accommodations and modifications Miguel will need. Step 4, establish a timeline when everything will be completed and ensure that everyone is well aware. Step 5, develop a plan with the biology teacher and other teachers affected that covers where, when, and how they will switch classes and offer solutions to their move. Step 6, begin developing plans for Miguel's long-term scheduling. Step 7, speak with key stakeholders to ensure funds are in place. And then step 8, communicate plans for reconstruction of the high school to ensure the rest of the building is up to code, and then communicate this out to the school and to the rest of the community. Section 9, this is a standard that I use, and the components of the standard are reflected throughout this presentation and are highlighted in yellow. Thank you for watching.